Welcome to TV African News and thank you for always joining us. This is Africa Today. My name is Najuma Luima, but first are the headlines. Reaction following French court ruling in favor of Total Energies. Uganda presents anti-gay bill in parliament with tough new penalties. FIFA Secretary General Samora reaches out to women in the upcoming World Cup. Welcome once again now the news in detail. A Ugandan NGO wishes appeal in French courts in the near future after losing a case against Total Energies last month. The chief executive of African Institute for Energy Governance, Dickens Kamgisha, said NGOs are consulting with lawyers and projects affected persons in the case of the pipeline in Uganda. We have more on this report.
A French court had dismissed a landmark case against Total Energies for a massive oil project in Uganda and Tanzania after several NGOs filed a suit to suspend the controversial project. It was the first case of its kind in France, and activists had hoped it would set a legal precedent to halt projects deemed harmful to the environment and human rights. 6 NGOs that filed the suit urged the development of the East African crude oil pipeline failed to adhere to a duty of vigilance, a 2017 law that compels companies to avoid grave harm to human rights, health, safety, and the environment. The court in February ruled the case was inadmissible, saying the plaintiffs did not correctly follow court procedures against the French energy giant. It said the plaintiffs submitted accounts to the court in December that were substantially different from those that were presented to Total Energies in a formal notice in 2019 when the case was initiated. The suit was brought by 2 French and 4 Ugandan NGOs which accused Total Energies of taking land from more than 100,000 people without adequate compensation. They also say the company drilled wells in the biodiversity-rich Murchison Falls National Park on the shores of Lake Albert.
The Ministers for East African Affairs, Honorable Alitwala Kadaga, has revealed that government is stuck with Uganda shillings 8 billion for employees of the former East African community, especially the East African Airways, whose whereabouts remain unknown. Minister Kadaga made the remarks as she addressed journalists in Kampala. Ahumuza with more.
According to Honorable Rebecca Litwala Kadaga, out of 649 employees of the defunct East African Airways, only 482 claimants were paid, while 166 claimants with 40% outstanding balance of 8 billions have not been paid due to no clear details.
We have got a particular challenge with the employees of the defunct East African Airways Corporation. There were a total of 482 claimants, but we have failed to establish the whereabouts of 166 of these. And their money is in this ministry. It has been here for 2 financial years. We have sent out messages. We have written to their lawyers. We have published in the newspapers. We have published on the internet. But these claimants have not come.
According to Kadaga, in case the 8 billion shillings is not claimed, it will be returned to the consolidated fund this year, as they are not allowed to ask for it 3 times from the government.
We will have to return this money to the consolidated fund if it is not claimed this year. And we are not allowed to ask for it for the 3rd time, because we have asked for it 2 times, and the financial year will be ending very soon. And if these 4 don't come, we must return it, and that will be the end of it. We shall not be able to apply again for this same money.
It is upon this background that the minister called on the former employees of the East African Airways or their relatives to come for these funds before it is too late.
In case there are former employees who might hear this message today, so that they can come. If their relatives, especially the ones of the East African Airways, are alive, they should come and tell us what has happened, or bring evidence that they are their relatives and that they have letters of administration. We have sent our teams out to the field to get payment information, And really, we have tried. We have really made a lot of efforts. So we have come to say, this is now, we are approaching the end. If the money is not taken this year, that will be the end of it.
When asked about the claims of the Kenyan government banning milk from Uganda, Kadaga said that she has written to the Minister for East African Affairs in Kenya, who is handling the matter.
Ugandan lawmakers on Thursday introduced legislation to Parliament that proposes tough new penalties for same-sex relations in a country where homosexuality is already illegal, defying criticism from human rights groups. Annette Anita Among, the Speaker of Parliament, referred the bill to a House Committee for scrutiny, the first step in an accelerated process to pass the proposal into law. She said in an address before Parliament, laced with homophobic language, that there would be a public hearing in which sexual minorities would be allowed to participate. The bill comes as conspiracy theories accusing shadow international forces of promoting homosexuality gain attraction on social media in conservative Uganda. Under the proposed law, anyone who engages in same-sex activity, all who holds out as LGBTQ, could face up to 10 years imprisonment. Among said when the time comes, legislators would vote on the bill one by one in front of their peers. In 2014, Ugandan lawmakers passed a bill that called for life in prison for people caught having gay sex, although a court later struck down the law. Let's take a quick break. We will be right back. Welcome back. You're still watching TV Africa News, the right to know. The UN Security Council voted on Wednesday to renew for a year the sanctions regime that hit Sudan since 2005 and the Darfur conflict, but Russia and China abstained.
With 13 votes in favor and 2 abstentions, the Council decided to extend until 12 March 2024 the mandate of the panel of experts originally appointed under Resolution 1591 of 2005 and previously extended by a number of successive texts voted against Sudan over the past 18 years, according to the new Resolution 2676. These panels of experts are charged by the United Nations Security Council with monitoring the implementation of arms embargoes and economic sanctions imposed on a number of countries in crisis and conflict situations. Russia abstained from the vote on Wednesday, and its Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov, who was in Khartoum in early February, said he supported Sudanese call to lift the UN sanctions. He also defended the operations of the paramilitary group Wagner in Africa in the face of the terrorist threat. Sudan is under a series of sanctions and an arms embargo imposed in 2005 by the UN during the conflict in Darfur in the West. The economy of this large East African country, one of the world's poorest, has been rendered bloodless by years of US economic sanctions under Omar al-Bashir.
Moving on, Kenya struggles with 51,000 metric tons of electronic waste each year, and only 17% of it is recycled. This was a big problem until Godwin Ochieng, one of the many who make a living by collecting electronic waste from dump sites in Nairobi, started repairing whatever items he can and resells them. Let's take a look. The rapid growth in technology has contributed to an increase in electronic waste generation in the last decade, which is affecting the environment. E-waste is the world's fastest growing domestic waste. This is fueled by the higher consumption rates of electric and electronic equipment, their short life cycle, and the fact that many items are not made to be repaired. With an absence of robust laws to address the problem, Africa has become a dumping ground for electronic waste from Western countries. According to the Global E-Waste Monitor Report of 2020, 53.6 million metric tons of e-waste were produced each year. If left unchecked, this could double to 120 million tons by 2050. Globally, only 17.4% of e-waste is managed appropriately. Kenya's annual electronic waste generation grew from 3,000 metric tons in 2012 to 51,000 metric tons in 2021. Most of the e-waste ends up in landfills, while others are recycled and properly disposed of by individuals or companies. Members of the Libyan army under the command of the internationally recognized government of national unity have held a drill in the western town of Tahuna.
Libya has been gripped by insecurity since a NATO-backed uprising toppled and killed dictator Muammar Gaddafi in 2011. Two rival governments are currently vying for power, government of national unity based in Tripoli, the other in the central city of Sirte. With no unified professional security force operating in the country, local militias which often have conflicting and evolving allegiances and political and territorial objectives are generally responsible for providing security. The drill is believed to be part of its usual training aimed at ensuring security and preparing for combat.
Away from that, a curfew has been introduced throughout the northern region of Burkina Faso and two other provinces to combat jihadist attacks in the Sahel region. To a note from the Secretary General of the Governorate of the Northern Region, Coleng Albert Zongo, as part of the fight against terrorism, a curfew from 10 p.m. to 5 a.m. has been introduced throughout the region from Friday 3rd March to Friday 31st March. According to Mr. Zongo, the measure is aimed at facilitating the actions of the armed forces in this border region of Mali. Two provinces have also instituted curfews, according to notes from local authorities. Kopelongo in the center-east region bordering Ghana and Togo for the entire month of March, and BAM in the center-north region from March 5th to 20th. In mid-February, the curfew in effect since 2019 in the eastern region from midnight to 4 a.m. was extended for 3 months until May 21st inclusive. Since 2022, the French presence has been increasingly questioned in Burkina Faso, as in many other African nations eager to regain control of their sovereignty. Let's once again take a quick break. We will be right back. Welcome back. You're still watching TV Africa News, the right to know. In our business news today, Zimbabwe, Africa's largest tobacco producer, opened its tobacco selling season on Wednesday with a speech by the vice president and eager international buyers.
The size of the tobacco crop increased despite increased fertilizer prices caused by the war in Ukraine. Zimbabwe expects to harvest 230 million kilograms of the golden leaf this season, up from 212 million kilograms last year, officials said at the official opening. The southern African country now wants to make its tobacco industry more lucrative by manufacturing more cigarettes at the home and limiting foreign funding of farmers. Currently, China funds the bulk of production and buys the lion's share of Zimbabwe's tobacco. Patrick Devenish, chairman of the regulatory body, the Tobacco Industry Marketing Board, attributed the spike in production to more growers taking up the crop from about 123,000 farmers last season to about 150,000 this season. He added that the land where tobacco was grown also increased to 118,000 hectares from about 110,000 hectares last season. In recent years, Zimbabwe had rapidly increased the size of its crop, regaining its spot as one of the world's top 5 exporters of tobacco, peaking at 261 million kilograms in 2019.
Bagari.
In our health news today, according to a UNICEF report unveiled on Monday, 12 countries, among whom 10 are in Africa, are hardest hit by the global food and nutrition crisis among adolescent girls and women. The report calls for governments, development and humanitarian partners and donors, civil society organizations and development actors to transform food, health and social protection systems for adolescent girls and women. 5.5 million pregnant and breastfeeding adolescent girls and women suffered of acute malnutrition in 2020. 6.9 million are now affected. A global nutrition crisis in adolescent girls and women issued ahead of International Women's Day warned that the ongoing crisis, aggravated by ongoing gender inequality, are deepening a nutrition crisis among adolescent girls and women that has showed little improvement. According to the report, an unprecedented and comprehensive look at the state of adolescent girls and women's nutrition. Globally, more than 1 billion adolescent girls and women suffer from undernutrition, deficiencies in essential micronutrients, and anemia, with devastating consequences for their lives and well-being. South Asia and Sub-Saharan Africa are home to 2 in 3 adolescent girls and women suffering from underweight globally, and 3 in 5 adolescent girls and women with anemia. And finally, with our sports news today, Secretary General Fatima Samura reached out to a female representative of each one of the 8 nations who will be debuting at the FIFA Women's World Cup on 20th July 2023. The online conversations kicked off around the concept of Beyond Greatness, which is the competition's slogan. Ahumaza with more.
The 2023 FIFA Women's World Cup will be the 9th edition of the FIFA Women's World Cup. The tournament will be jointly hosted by Australia and New Zealand and is scheduled to take place from 20th July to 20th August 2023. The tour will take the trophy to all 32 of the tournament's participating nations, plus all 9 Women's World Cup host cities in the final weeks before the start of the tournament on 20th July. Key dates on the tour schedule include stops in China on 9th to 11th March, South Africa on 22nd to 23rd March, Brazil on 29th to 30th March, USA on 10th to 14th April, Canada on 19th to 20th April, Germany on 2nd to 3rd May, England on 13th to 14th May, and France on 20th to 21st May. Several countries will also be part of the tour for the first time ever, including Colombia, Costa Rica, Denmark, Morocco, the Philippines, Ireland, Switzerland, Vietnam, and Zambia. One of the goals for the pitch is to raise awareness of the Women's World Cup and encourage the community to come together in playing football and in anticipating of the tournament later this year.
That was the news. Thank you for always keeping it TV Africa. Please do stay tuned.